born on April 8, 1974 in Otis, Texas. My parents' names are Kenneth Kyle and Debbie Lynn Kyle. I have a younger brother named Jeff Kyle. I grew up on a ranch in Texas. And my father was a deacon in the church. I loved to hunt deer and pheasants as a kid. I had a lifelong interest in the military, and I liked to get in fights when I was younger because I wanted to protect the underdogs. I attended to Tarleton State University for 2 years studying ranch and range management. I was a professional rodeo bull rider and a ranch handler. When I was 24 years old, I enlisted in the U.S. military. I originally wanted to be a Marine, but a Navy recruiter convinced me to join the Navy SEALs in 1999. I graduated in the Navy SEAL with a class of 233 people in March 2001. I met my wife, Taya, in April 2001 at a bar in San Diego, California. We were married a few months before my first deployment. I completed 4 tours in Iraq and I left the military in 2009 to be with my wife and my children. I am considered to be the deadliest sniper in American history. I use my Macmillan TAC .338 rifle.
Ooh.
I have 160 confirmed kills, but 225 is more likely a more accurate number. My longest shot was 2,100 yards. In 2008, near Sadra City, I saw an enemy with a rocket launcher. I moved towards an American convoy and killed him with 1 round. I was known as the legend among general infantry. I was known by the enemy as the Devil of Ramadi, and I had a bounty on my head of $200,000 $20,000 that later reached to $80,000. I was shot twice, survived 6 IEDs, and earned 2 silver stars and 5 bronze stars. After the military, I was president of training company Craft International, where I instructed members of the U.S. military and local law enforcement. Skip one. No. In 2012, I wrote an American Sniper autobiography of the most lethal sniper in the U.S. I co-launched a nonprofit group, FitCo Cares Foundation, which created the Heroes Project to provide free and home fitness equipment. In Valiu's program, personal training and life coaching to in need of veterans with disabilities or those suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. In 2014, my book was turned into a major Hollywood film, American Sniper, directed by Clint Eastwood and Bradley Cooper. I messed up. This was the book one, and this was the one I'm supposed to do now. I was murdered on February 2nd, 2013 by Eddie Ray Ruth. Eddie was a troubled veterinarian, and my friend Chad Littlefield and I were trying to help him. He was shot us both at a rifle range in Fort Worth, Texas on February 12th. My funeral procession stretched over 200 miles long from my Midlothian to Augusta, Texas, and included a police escort, biker escort, and a giant American flag. I was buried beside many other Navy SEALs in Texas State Cemetery. Eddie Ray Ruth was found guilty for murdering Chad and I on February 24th, sentenced to life in prison. This is the guy that killed him. Reasons why this person should be admired. Chris Kyle loved and served for his country. He was an American hero. He cared about veterinarians and helped them. That's it.
This box, this jacket is supposed to be on Franklin's stove. He invented it to keep more heat in and not fog up the room that much. He signed the Declaration of Independence and Constitution of Independence. Ben Franklin also organized the Senate to have equal power. Each state would have equal power. That's why there's 2 people from each state in the Senate. Because back then there was an argument over who would have more power. Smaller states thought bigger states would have more power. States with more population thought they should have more power. But Ben Franklin stepped in and said that the Senate should have 2 people from each state so everybody has equal power. And so he also started the Philadelphia Fire Department, and that's why I have the fire truck in there. He also, I'm sure all of you know about the kite experiment. He flew a kite in the storm and had a key at the other end he was holding. When the kite got struck with lightning, he leaned out and touched the key, and he got shocked, thus proving that lightning had electricity. And once, with his other experiments with electricity, he tried to roast a turkey with a pair of batteries. Instead, he almost roasted himself. And when he was in France representing us to try and get France to help us in the Revolutionary War, he would have to take off his glasses when he wanted to look away from his reading, and then put on new glasses in order to see ahead of him. And then he got the idea of creating a different kind of glasses. I forgot what he called those kind of glasses, but thanks to him, kids like me don't have to carry 2 pairs of glasses all the time. So he was born on January 17, 1706. He taught his schoolmates how to swim. He wanted to be a sailor when he grew up, but his father convinced him he should have a trade. He eventually decided to be an apprentice to his big brother James, who was a printer. But I'm not going to get into that part yet. So one time he was with his schoolmates going to a lake where they usually swam. He saw another man who called him to swim over. He left over to him, but the man tried to convince him to come with him. But the others knew that he was bad. They went back to his house, to Ben's house, and got his father. One of his other brothers, who was Josiah, I think. He left to be a sailor and got kidnapped. Well, that's what everybody thinks. Nobody actually knows what happened to him. But back then, it was common for sailors to kidnap young boys as slaves. That the sailor had seen Ben swimming. He thought he could make money off showing royalty Ben swimming. He tried to trick Ben into thinking he'd make profit when all he wanted was him to swim for him so he could make some cash in Europe and other places. He thought Ben Franklin knew that he always knew how to swim. He thought he learned at the age of 6. There was only one room besides the shop that his father worked in, but his father was a soap and candle maker. Because of that trade, his father a trade is actually a skill. That's just what they called him back then. But thanks to that skill, his father was able to afford to burn more candles than just one at a time. He also started the police department in Philadelphia, and did you know that Pennsylvania was actually named after a family that the king was in debt to? So he gave that state to them. But Ben Franklin went to London to convince them, to convince the Penn's family to pay taxes for the streets to be swept, in Philadelphia, like everybody else had to. But they thought since that land what they owned, they didn't have to pay for it. And what's worse, they didn't even live on that land, even though they owned it. So selfish. He also invented the lightning rod, which was supposed to keep families' homes from getting burnt down by lightning. He also started the University of Pennsylvania. He founded the Judo Club and one of the biggest libraries in Philadelphia. He also started the Pennsylvania Hospital, which was a big help in the Revolutionary War, because they were able to help with bullets and stuff. So 1728, Ben opened a print shop with his partner he met in London. He met him in London because actually, he met him in London, and when he was gonna start his own print shop, but he went to London to buy things. The governor wanted him to have his own print shop, but he forgot to write a letter with money for Ben. So he was stuck in London, and he worked there until he met his partner. I don't actually know how to pronounce his name, except his partner's name, except Huge. I'm not sure how to pronounce it otherwise, but thanks to him, he was able to get back home, and together they started their own print shop. Eventually, Huge, or is it Hug? I'm not sure if it's Hug or Huge, but eventually, they bought the Pennsylvania Gazette, and I know that's like that. And eventually, the print shop he and his partner made, he wrote the Projects Gazette. Eventually, Huge sold his half of the business to Ben Franklin, because he didn't appreciate all the hard work it did to make a print and successful business. But Ben Franklin moved on to do much bigger things than just that. He represented us in the Revolutionary War. He was a representative. He was president of many different facilities. He also chased tornadoes on horseback. Eventually, he became the Postmaster Deputy General of the entire country of America. Did I mention he chased tornadoes on horseback?
Yes.
But he was confident, he was daring, he was Benjamin Franklin!
Hi, I'm Abraham Lincoln. I was born February 12th, 1809 in a log cabin. I lived in Kentucky with my older sister, Sarah. Sarah was also known as Sally. I had a big family and lots of cousins. My mom's name was Nancy Lincoln and my dad's name was Thomas Lincoln. One of my favorite things I liked was a wagon that was red. When I was 9, my mom died. I borrowed books to educate myself. I like to go hunting in the morning. I moved several times in my childhood. My mom taught me and Sarah about the Bible. I attended school for about 18 months. I loved friends as I loved books. I was 6'4" as an adult. Sarah Bush Lincoln was my stepmother. I married Mary Ann Todd Lincoln. Mary and I had 4 kids. Austin was my stepbrother. I would give long-winded stories. I worked as a woodcutter, postmaster, and a soldier. I would practice making speeches before I go to bed. I always obeyed everybody. My friend Johnny trusted the Lord. I was not afraid of anything except death. The Civil War ended in April 1853. I died on April 14, 1865, and I was shot by John Wilkes Booth in the Ford's Theater. This is the play that I was watching where I was shot by. My major accomplishments were I wrote the Gettysburg Address. I built a new nation for America. I successfully ended the Civil War. I stopped slavery. This is the proclamation. I was known as the Great Emancipator. I was elected to Congress in 1846.
I was the 16th president in 1861. I was re-elected in 1864. I was known as Honest Abe. I maintained being an honest politician or lawyer. I established the Department of Agriculture. I crafted the 13th Amendment, which ended slavery. Why should I be admired? I give very good speeches to people. I do a lot of good stuff for people. I enacted the Homestead Act, which opened up land for new settlers. I did not go to law school. I became an attorney. I helped us realize all men should be created equally. I am ranked as one of the greatest presidents. I helped make a banking system. I was the last president to hold a patent. I made a device to keep ships floating. I supported the development of the railroad. I failed several times, but I kept trying. I was a Republican and formerly Whig. I kept several documents in my hat. And this is me at the Gettysburg Address in Pennsylvania. And that's it.